Safiyyah Warren Moore. She's the owner, founder, and publisher of On the Scene magazine. She's actually a fourth-generation publisher, entrepreneur. And it's my pleasure to welcome her to the program. Full disclosure, I worked for her father at the New Observer, and I'm now contribute to On the Scene magazine. So welcome, Safiyyah. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I am well, and it's such a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege to sit and speak with you. So thank you for having me here.
Well, it's my pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, I said that you were a fourth generation publisher. So take us back to your great grandfather, J.H. Warren Sr.
Sure. So J.H. Warren Sr. is my great grandfather, and he was the first. He was the first publisher and editor of my lineage on my father's side, and he started the Washington New Observer. But prior to that, he was an editor for the Pittsburgh Courier, and also had another publication that he created called Highlights. So he was always into, from what I understand, into media and in publication and publishing, but he was always interested in highlighting informative information, if that makes sense. He was also always resourceful and making sure that the people got the information that they needed. So that was really important for me to learn and to also adhere by. So he was the beginning of it. Following him was his son, J. Hugo Warren Jr., who followed in his steps and also led the Washington New Observer after his father. And then my father was the founder and the publisher and editor of the Philadelphia New Observer, which was in our bloodline, which he got from directly working with his father and his grandfather. And the New Observer and both of the newspapers were dedicated to being a people's publication, if you will. They were always dedicated to being resourceful, informative, encouraging, and that's what I aspire to be too. So that's where it all began in regards to the legacy.
Mm-hmm. Now, we also have an indirect connection because your great-grandfather was from Southampton County. Mm-hmm. My father's people are from Southampton County, and you guys, from what I understand, live the next little town over. We're from Zuni, and you guys were from Ivor.
Yep, you got it. We were definitely from Ivor. I've had the opportunity to see my family and visit. We still have our family land there. So I have the opportunity to visit that, and it's definitely a blessing. So yes, we do. We do have multiple connections.
Yeah, and it's even bigger because there was another Warren family, and one of my cousins married into your family. And so I had the opportunity several years ago when the NNPA convention was in Norfolk to tell your father and hook up a meeting with his cousin Lemuel. He was able to meet him and make that kind of connection. But why did you determine to go into publishing yourself?
So it's interesting you asked that, and I think what made me start it and what makes me continue to strive to do it is the void of not only positive information, but information of substance. I think that we are inundated with negativity and sensationalized news that I don't really think is food for thought or resourceful for our people. So that's what really drives me, what drove me and continues to drive me on a daily basis to contribute in a positive manner information that can be utilized for multiple and many people.
Well, I do know, since I was a writer for the Philadelphia New Observer as well as several other papers in and around Philadelphia, your dad's paper was the most diverse in terms of being a people paper. It addressed the hard political issues, which, as you know, is difficult because you have to depend on advertising. And he never shied away from the controversial issues. He had controversial editors, he had people who were conscious, and the paper actually is been a big void since it stopped because there was nothing like it in the area.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, with that being said, I kind of wanted to, kind of step in and do my best at trying to fill that void, because I think that is necessary. And I'm just grateful and blessed that I was able to be raised in that environment, because I understand the importance of it. And I absolutely think that there is a void that needs to be filled. And not only in our area, I'm thankful for the times that we are in with, technology and globalization, that we can now expand and not only just focus on our tri-state area, but we can focus nationally, if not globally, on some impactful issues. So I'm really thankful for that too.
Well, you a little jumped ahead of me because I was going to ask you, why did you choose a digital format as opposed to a hard copy? But you pretty much answered that. But what were some of the other considerations for making the choice to go digital?
Sure. There were a lot of things that kind of contributed to that, because I'm not going to lie, I still enjoy feeling paper. I enjoy holding it and flipping the pages, the smell of it. I absolutely enjoy it. But being a realist and also understanding the times that we're in, digital is better for the environment. It's more time sensitive. I can address or highlight or publish information in a more timely manner, not only faster but more voluminous as well. And also the reach, as you mentioned, the reach is not only as far as our physical print goes, but as far as our digital demand goes. So that was a lot of the factors that I took into consideration.
Hmm. Do you have a specific editorial philosophy, a point of view that you instilled in the creation of the magazine, and that the magazine constantly reflects?
Absolutely. So one of our mantras is encouraging urban influence, and I think that speaks a lot in itself, because anything that we publish, it's encouraging in one way or another in some perspective. And another one that we go by is helping through information. So I think that with those two together, it kind of instills the mission of the magazine.
Mhm. Now, unlike the New Observer and the Washington Observer that were primarily local, they did cover national and international. You don't seem to be localized. I mean, it's
No,
stated that it's from the Philadelphia area, but you seem to have a much broader outreach, and you seem to have more content that is regional, national, and international. So
absolutely, absolutely.
was that a deliberate decision?
Yes. It was definitely a deliberate decision, because I felt like we could have I felt like we there's a lot of groundwork to be covered in our own neck of the woods, and I
Hmm.
didn't want to limit myself, and I felt as though nationally and in other regions could benefit from our information, and we could benefit from penetrating those markets as well. So it was definitely a deliberate decision, again, especially with technology, when you have the aptitude to ability to reach, a broader base, then why not use it?
Did the fact that you had a broad base uh, impact on your decisions in terms of the advertising? Because a lot of times, particularly when the internet first came out and you had locally based company, I was on internet radio stations that basically were using the internet, but they didn't have a full grasp of how to use it to market. So you're a marketer, you learned from your dad and you did some other things. So how has that changed from, say, traditional newspaper and magazine publishing to doing an online magazine in terms of advertising? And how do you attract those advertisers?
So it's interesting you said that, because I just had a meeting. I was just in a meeting the other day, and we were kind of speaking about that, because it has certainly changed, right? But I also feel like the more things change, they kind of also stay the same. You just kind of have to figure a different way at how to do it. So instead of, I guess, before and even now it's kind of it's all always dedicated to or a factor is traffic, but I also think that what brings our traffic is the content. So speaking to the content, that kind of is what brings our traffic to our site. So we're seeing a demand and we're seeing that we're in a niche market and we're providing something that not many if anybody else is really doing. That gives us the leverage to utilize that when we're discussing advertising. But I will say that advertising is a little different as well with not only the introduction, but the I guess the heavy usage of like social media.
Hmm.
Because I think that changed the game incredibly as well because a lot of people are getting free advertisements in different ways and are utilizing it so they may not people aren't thinking to using the traditional vehicles to advertise. And that's when you kind of have to be, again, as I said, you kind of have to be creative and attract them to your site with other things like your content, right? It's not just sensationalized, but it's things that is of substance. So I
Right.
think that that's kind of how I try to balance it. But it's always, I think it's an ever changing industry or market.
Now, do you have to adhere to the typical advertising, where you say, I have a certified readership of so and so, or we get so many unique hits every day or weekly or monthly, whatever. Does that impact your revenue and the sponsors, say like a newspaper or a traditional radio station or terrestrial radio station would do? Or is it different?
So so it can, and again, so it can, and that so what I've used as a younger publication that's growing, and we have a nice readership, but of course we're growing, and so that's something that I've used in those meetings is to kind of as leverage our readership, but also the content that we have that we're growing and that we're also developing and incorporating a different market than what you may see from just something that a straightforward niche market. So that's something that we have definitely had to it was a challenge because it's changing again with the electronic market, but it's something that's heavily utilized as well. They do use the circulation audit, but again, I think something that's kind of been a benefit for me is um, is our product in itself. I think a lot of people base our value on that, and that's what I'm proud to say as well.
Mm. Now we're going to share on the screen a shot of the magazine so the people who are looking at this can get a feel for what you're doing. So walk us through the layout process because it's in ways it's probably similar to traditional layout for a newspaper or magazines, but I'm sure there are ways that are different.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, there it goes. So
So
the layout is go ahead.
now, so take us through. You have your banner. So take us through the layout and what type of decisions go into actually printing the magazine or publishing the magazine.
Right. So what I'd like to say is, so what I think a benefit or an advantage of having a digital publication versus a print publication is again the time sensitivity, but also you have the ability to like I can create all the space that I need, right? So I think that is, and it's not infinite, but I definitely have more ability to create more space in a digital perspective than I do in a print version. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I always am appreciative. Like with
You're not
the
talking
newspaper
about
we had. I'm
pages
sorry.
per issue.
Right, exactly. Pages per issue, and even the space of the pages. So you have a certain cutout of um, what your specs are for actual physical print. But you can kind of manipulate it differently with digital than you would with, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It can kind of be manipulated different with our banners, and even just with the page, the sizing of the content can be manipulated a little bit differently and more quickly, should I say, with print. Um,
Now
so
below
the
you
layout,
have
right?
this advertise with us. So how if somebody saw this and saw this as a great opportunity, to get their service or their product out there, how would they go about advertising on the Scene magazine?
So they could contact us. So below there, there should be a button um, for a multitude of people who would like to contact us in regards to, say, writers. There
Mm-hmm.
should be a button there to contact us for advertisement. There you go. So we have advertising opportunities, we have writing opportunities, photographer opportunities, and we also have an internship program that we just created as well. And we have to put that button there. But we have an internship program that we are in the midst of working with Temple University to get some young and fresh talent. I think that it's important for us to stay on the ground and stay close to the ground and kind of be involved in mentoring and the mentoring and the growing of young journalists and editors and publishers of that matter too.
Okay. Now you are a lifestyle magazine, so you cover the full gamut. You do, they can see on your banner, you do news, sports, entertainment, fashion, education, business, health, and you have a store. Um, do you lean in a particular topic per issue? Do you do themes? How when you're putting the issues together, what are some of the thoughts and ideas that go into that process?
Sure, absolutely. So we do have themes that we go for, and I got it from my dad. I remember whenever he had his supplements, for different times of the year, like towards August, there was the education supplement, the political supplements, which is something that I'm actually getting into right now. June was Black Music Month. There were so many things that he would focus on during the editorial calendar, and I'm happy to say I follow suit, and I'm doing the same thing.
Mhm. Now you do your own promotions, and one of the ways you do it is by selling merchandise. So we see some of
Right.
the merchandise on the screen. Uh, are you planning to expand the line that you offer? And I recognize this is relatively new. So tell us about that. What's happening with that?
So it's so interesting and amazing that you asked that question because if you might have asked it a few weeks ago, I would have a different answer. But it is beautifully and organically growing to something that I didn't imagine that it would. And so we started with, so let me go back. So we started with one hoodie, and the slogan was, "The Black Press is the voice of Black America."
Mm-hmm.
And that saying came from my grandfather who had it printed on a T-shirt back in the '70s. And I have the original shirt with my father's shirt, and I was always taking my dad's clothes. I always take his clothes. And I had this shirt, and it was like an epiphany. I was like, wow, the Black Press is the voice of Black America. And I saw if it was, trademarked. It wasn't, so I went and protected it. And the first thing I did was I brought it out in merchandise form of a hoodie. And then we expanded to a T-shirt, and now we have another edition or another line that's coming out soon. That's very inspiring as well. And yeah, I have some amazing projects. Something else I really can't speak about yet, but I really want to be an innovator in the media world, and it's something that I got from my dad too. If you remember, the tagline for the New Observer, the Philadelphia New Observer, was "Innovators of the Positive News Format," and so it's something that I really want to continue, and it's something that I lean on. So when you ask also about maybe the editorial calendar, we absolutely rely on the calendar and editorial schedule, but in all respect, everything just has to be from a positive perspective.
Right.
So that's all. Again, I say we cover everything from education to entertainment. I like to call it edutainment.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as it's from a positive perspective. So yeah, that's where it came from. I'm very excited about this project. We've been shipping things like nationally. We've literally been shipping our items nationally now, and it's only been out for about 2 or 3 months now. So I'm really excited about it.
The URL for the magazine is what?
It's www.onthescenemagazine.com. Yep, it's
At this point, it's free.
onthescenemagazine.com.
It says, I see down here it says subscribe. So is there a subscription?
Sure, absolutely. It's a free subscription. The subscription, if your viewers would like to join, it's a free subscription, and they will be alerted. They'll get an email with our updates and our newest editions as soon as they're uploaded.
Okay. Now, do you have a schedule? Because the New Philadelphia New Observer was weekly, and
Right.
one of the positives about digital publishing is that you can do it at any time, and you can stay on top of breaking issues, and you have access if you have the staff to put out, pictures as well as content. So what's your publishing schedule?
So it's a good question. So we've been growing so much that I'll say honestly, when we first started, we started out with the schedule of a traditional magazine, like was once a month. But as you mentioned, with having the digital capabilities, we're able to publish a lot more frequently than that. So now we're on a biweekly basis, and as I mentioned, we're always looking for writers and photographers and people to contribute because we would love to. Our ultimate goal is to be actually on a daily basis, but we would like to move weekly in the near future as well. So just make sure you're on the scene to stay on the scene, and you'll make sure that you'll get all our updates.
Now, are you planning to uh, bring in content like video content and audio content?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what we're working on now as well. Um, that's exactly what we're working on now. Yeah, I believe we have some videos on there now, and I think it's in the entertainment section. But that's something that we are growing with and diversifying as well with.
Okay. Now, how has COVID impact what you're doing and your growth projections and what you wanted to do at this time, say a year ago or 2 years ago?
Interesting question. At first, I thought that COVID stagnated me because right before COVID hit, I was invited to numerous events, but it was one of the biggest events that I was invited to was South by Southwest. It's like a concert festival in Dallas, Texas, or is in Austin, Texas. But it was for me it was an honor because I was taught again from a national event organization to cover it, but then everything was shut down because of COVID. So at first I thought it was kind of a stagnating occurrence, but when I look back at it, I kind of took the lesson and the blessing, is what I like to call it too. So I re-strategized, and a lot of people just had to sit down and kind of sit still. And I just took that time to see how we can better serve our audience and how we can better serve our market. And with that, we've developed a lot. I'm so proud of the brand itself. Again, through that, the merch was born. We have an amazing project that we'll be able to speak about soon. But yeah, so again, initially it staggered. It was a stagnation. I thought that I would have covered a lot more than I did right now, but a lot of things didn't happen that I thought would have happened that I could have covered. Um, but in its own right, there were a lot of other happenings. So I don't really think that we sat too still. We used the time to re-strategize and reorganize, and I think we're better than ever. I think we're back stronger. I think that I was looking at all the content that we've been able to produce in the past year, but let alone like 3 years. We've been really hitting the ground, and I'm proud of that. So I like with that being said, I didn't let the pandemic affect me negatively. I took the time, put the work in, and now I'm ready for everybody else to see it too.
So once you go up and on the magazine, you can look at it. And if you're interested in more information, you can scroll all the way down. There you can see it. It's still on the screen. You can contact them for information if you want to advertise, if you want to be a writer, a contributor, a photographer, and I'm sure as they move forward, they'll be doing maybe like brief audio programs and also videography and things like that. So it's all there. It's very easy to access. If you're interested, and she mentioned she's going to expand the merchandising line. So if you're interested, obviously you do e-commerce. So how can people get the products that you have now and the products that you're going to be rolling out in the not too distant future?
Sure. So they can go to our site, onthescenemagazine.com/store, and virtually and literally it's all there. Once they click on it there, we're shipping nationally. Um, we accept all forms of payment. And if you're in a local area, I mean, you can also contact me, send me an email, and I'll drop it off to avoid a shipping cost for you. So I'm doing that for the local tri-state area. But yeah, but if not, you can feel free to check on our site, onthescenemagazine.com/store.
What type of short-term, intermediate, and then long-term goals have you set for the publication?
Thanks for asking that. The short-term goal is to just make sure that we are accessible, that we are up to date, and that we are timely providing the information that we want to convey and publish. You said a midterm goal.
The intermediate and then the long-term.
Yeah. A midterm goal would be to, well, intermediate goal is to, as we just spoke about, was to expand with our videography and some more other services. Have something that I really want to. I'd like to be a content provider, like have a service to provide content writers for other people. But my long term goal that I would love to see happen within the next 2 years. I think 5 is too long. 5 is too long. But again, as my family, it's been our legacy to always provide information that is of substance.
Mhm.
And I really want to penetrate our jail system because I think that people that are incarcerated can heavily and highly benefit from the information that we convey in our magazine. So what I want to think is I want to develop an app um, that because they have iPads or some type of devices up there that they utilize. But I would love to create an app so that our incarcerated population can get this information they need and not information that is not valuable to them or resourceful to them in any way. That's something that's near and dear to me to helping underprivileged people in any kind of way that I can.
Mhm. Now, do you have any plans for linkages, forming partnerships, or a mutual benefit, for lack of a better term, like a mutual agreement or cooperative type of arrangement?
Right. And hold on, I'm gonna step back. Well, I do, but I want to step back because I have an ultimate term goal too. I would
All right.
ultimately, I would just love to be like a media maven. I love what Kathy Hughes has done. So I would love to expand beyond just a magazine and print. I would love to expand into visual media to movies to on stage plays, books, just all incorporation of media because that's something I really, really admire and I really want to do.
Mhm.
But to your next question, absolutely. I think that partnerships are very important. I think that they're critical. And I think that there are numerous organizations that I would love to partner with that I think that would be beneficial to us, to all of us that we serve. For instance, I'm a member, but I'd like to develop more of the relationship with the PABJ,
Mhm. Mhm.
NABJ. NNPA is somebody that I just reconnected
Yes,
with.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I grew up with the NNPA. I went to most of the conferences. I'm not sure if I was in Norfolk. I don't think I was at that one, but I went to numerous.
Mhm.
But even like Chamber of Commerce's, just multiple organizations. I think that there is strength in numbers, and I think that we, as On the Scene Magazine, can um, offer a great benefit by being a resource and being another mouthpiece, if you will, for some of these organizations and kind of disseminating information.
Mhm. Anything that we haven't covered that you want to share with our viewers and listeners about yourself or On the Scene magazine before we let you go?
Um, you asked a lot of good questions, but I just like to say that I know that I'm truly blessed to have grown up in media. It's truly like ink in my blood, and it's something that I'm thankful for my family's legacy, and I just wanted to continue it. And hopefully, I have two sons, maybe one, if not both of them, will continue in the family's footsteps as well. But it's just something that is really near and dear to me. It's my passion and my purpose, And my ambition in life is to be a walking resource, and I think I'm doing that through Want to See magazine, or I'd like to.
Okay. All right. Give us your URL again, and also your email in case somebody wants to contact you about a specific issue or question or topic.
Sure. So we can catch the site. The site is www.onthescenemagazine.com. And if anyone would like to reach out to me, feel free. It's swarren@onthescenemagazine.com. That's S is in Safiyyah or Sam, Warren@onthescenemagazine.com.
Okay. Thank you for what you're doing. It's much needed. Thank you for continuing your family's legacy. Because, like I said, the Philadelphia New Observer was a real powerful organ in this area, and it was really like heart wrenching when it stopped, because you had so many talented people writing and working and doing things there, uh, and there's still a void there, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, God willing, I'll be able to fill that void.
Stay strong, and we'll be in contact in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eunice. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right.